really interesting finding out about the retractable bed cover. I thought that was a really cool idea. And I actually asked a lot of questions about how much space it took up in the Gladiator and so on and so forth. And I think you guys got a really nice cover there. And the cool thing about it is, correct me on this, it's lockable. So you can have a bit of security in the bed of your Gladiator.
Yeah, well, you get a lot of security.
Hi, boys and girls. It's time for the Jeep Talk Show interview. We're going to be talking with Pat Johnson over at EGR USA. Pat caught the Jeep bug in the early 90s and has been wheeling his CJ7 ever since. Even named his kids using the Jeep monikers. They have to be really happy about that. I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's a fun story.
Jeep passion runs deep, and he's been in the aftermarket Jeep off-road truck accessory business for 20 years. Wait until you hear why he was told to let the welds cure before testing them. I know nothing about welding. I want to know about welding. I'm thinking you got to let them cool off, and then you can use them. So what's the deal there, Pat?
So, I had an unfortunate Jeep incident, not uncommon amongst Jeepers, but I was off-roading one weekend with my kids in the back. At the time, they were 2 and 4. And I had them all in their full harnesses, and I had just had a cage put in probably 4 months earlier. And we found some guys on the trail that didn't belong on the trail, had gotten themselves in a bad way. One of their vehicles was rolled over on its side. The steering box had severed from the frame as an XJ. The steering box had severed off from the unibody, and he was just dead in the water. So we were winch rappelling him back down off the mountain over a series of a couple of hours. Towards the end, a number of factors came into play where I ended up out of my vehicle checking the drum on the winch to make sure I had enough on the spool. On the other end of this thing, somebody cinched a line, and it all pulled down the hill.
Oh, no.
Ran over me, launched the Jeep up an embankment, took my kids with it, took out a poplar tree about 6 feet up, peeled over and rolled down onto its frame or onto its cage. And in the end, unbelievably, I was the only one scathed in this whole thing. I had marks up and down my leg and BFG printed across the top of my foot. But my kiddos in the back went for the whole ride.
They were again.
Didn't even have a bruise. They weren't quite there. They didn't want to do the ride again, but they did say, can the next Jeep be red? We actually resurrected that Jeep.
Nice.
It still wheels today. But the buddy of mine who had a fabrication shop who built the Jeep came over about a week later after I had everything torn off of it that was bent. We were trying to find where any bends were and stuff like that. He came over to analyze it, was measuring up everything. It hadn't even moved a millimeter. It was the cage was completely intact. The frame had a small bend underneath the driver's seat between the A mount and the B mount on the frame, on the cage, which was welded down to the frame. So he just looks at me and he says, you're supposed to let these welds cure before you test them. Because I'd only had this thing for like 4 months, the cage for like 4 months. So that's where that piece came in. And I just remember that phrase is his comment on the whole incident as it happened.
So is that legitimate or is that a smart ass comment? Because it sounds like a smart ass comment.
No, it was a smart ass comment, but it did make me think.
Because I'm thinking 4 months is long enough for a weld to cure.
Yeah, so long as it's cool, I think it should hold. If you made steel, you made steel. So
yeah. So you know what they say about red Jeeps, right?
Ooh, red Jeeps are sexy.
They say red Jeeps are sexy, of course. All right. So as I was mentioning before we started recording, the last time we spoke with EGR was with Mike back in February of 2023. So I'm so glad you guys are back. I always say that if you come back, you know what you're in for the second time, and so it's your fault for coming back.
Right. I was going to say it's my fault because he didn't come back.
So it was a lot of fun talking to you guys, and it was really interesting finding out about the retractable bed cover. I thought that was a really cool idea, and I actually asked a lot of questions about how much space it took up in the Gladiator and so on and so forth. And I think you guys got a really nice cover there. And the cool thing about it is, correct me on this, it's lockable, so you can have a bit of security in the bed of your Gladiator.
Yeah, well, you get a lot of security, and you touched on two of the three main points really here. The advantage of our cover, it's a canister style cover. Mm-hmm. The canister is small compared to any of our competitors that have made retractables, and the negative that a lot of people have for retractable covers is there's this big canister that takes up a big chunk of your cargo space.
That's right.
We made ours injection molded, so it can't be dented. You can't damage the cover inside with stuff that's floating around in the back. But in doing so, we were able to make it much more compact. The compact canister allows for much more use of the bed space underneath there. We also include a utility box on the Gladiator application to push the canister forward a little bit because of the fuel port that comes in the driver's side of the vehicle. So that way we have the maximum width on the canister, and we can put the weight bearing over the bed rails instead of inboard like others have done. So that means that this vehicle, or the cover, has 700 pounds of static weight rating. So if you want to put overlanding racks on there, contractors racks, any kind of gear on top of this cover on the T-slots, this one's really made for doing that, where a lot of others have very limited weight ratings on them because they're clamp-on style. Ours is a bolt-in piece. Bolts into existing locations along the T-slots on the inside, that track rail. Can't remember what they call it now.
Mopar trail rail?
System, yeah, the trail rail.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Gladiator didn't come with a trail rail, some of the base models don't. Our kit provides it. So it's everything you need to bolt it in. Takes a little longer to put it in, but it's a much, much stronger, much better application. Super watertight. It's the most watertight cover that's going to be on the market. So you got strength, you got canister size, you got water management. It's just a much better application than what most are out there. So the security on this is great because once it is closed, it integrates with we only offer an electric for the Gladiator. It integrates with your factory lock circuit. So you use your factory key fob to open and unlock and lock it. When you lock the vehicle, it disables the keypads on the rail, and therefore the cover is secured. The tailgate is closed and it's all sealed up. So any gear that you've got in there is going to be secure and dry.
Right. So you can, let's touch on this again. You can use your key fob to open and close, and there's also buttons on the outside so that you can walk over to the buttons along the rail, so I would assume.
You can either just simply unlock and lock the vehicle with your key fob, and that engages the cover itself, or you can use a series of push buttons. So you push the open 4 times and or the unlock 4 times. Open the cover.
Nice. How do you guys handle that?
Again, we integrate through the lock circuit. So there's an ECU on the cover canister itself, and it gets a feed from that lock circuit.
Monitors, yeah.
And once it gets a specific feed from the lock circuit, it triggers it to either open or close, depending on what that feed is.
Yeah, it sees the unlock 4 times and goes, "Oh, you're talking to me."
Yeah. Oh, and once it comes to a closed position and that vehicle's been locked at that point, then it disables the buttons that are on the rails. So there are buttons on the rails at the end of the cover. You can also operate it from the door lock buttons inside the vehicle at that point. So if you wanted to push the door lock button 4 times, you're pulling up to the grocery store or airport or something, it's nasty weather outside, you can just unlock and activate the cover from the inside of the vehicle, and somebody can dump their gear in, close it up, and away you go.
So you can pull up to, if they can get to the bed, because, if you're lifted in 38s or 40s, but if they can get to the bed, you could pull up to a grocery store to pick up your food that you had ordered online for the pickup, and just push the button, and I'm sure they'd be very impressed. If they weren't already impressed with the Gladiator, they'd be impressed with the fancy stuff that's on the back.
To get your groceries. Yeah. You're picking up your buddy at the airport, you just toss his bag in and go.
Yeah. Aren't you going to get out? I don't need to.
No, you get in.
Yeah. You do it, man.
Good luck. I got 38. So.
And it doesn't keep you, I don't think a lot of people haul plywood, but it doesn't keep you from getting 4x8 sheets of plywood. There's some modifications that you have to do to the Gladiator to be able to carry a full sheet of plywood out the back. But as far as the bed cover goes, I would imagine as long as the plywood isn't taller than the bed cover, you could actually carry plywood in the rain.
Yeah,
and
a lot of people still use it for contracting, but even some guys will use them for if they want to put like a dirt bike or something, or even off-road bikes in the back, and they can still use it with the cover open. You can still fit a bike back there, still have your tailgate at an angle, and brace everything into place. So there's enough room. And again, the canister is durable enough to take that pressure up against it, where metal canisters can be dented and they can damage the cover inside of them at that point.
So it sounds
well thought out.
Yeah, it sounds like this doesn't decrease your options; it increases your options. So it doesn't detract, because some things that you add detract from the use of the vehicle.
Yeah, it depends on what you're using it for, but absolutely, this is the biggest thing with Jeep. has always been the history of Jeep. It's a utilitarian vehicle, but it has horrible storage space. So anything you can do to give secure storage is a benefit. And this cover happens to do that for you. And it does, I think it augments the look of the vehicle as well. It's a nice, clean, aluminum top. So it's a nice, durable piece. We say it holds 700 pounds static weight rating on the T-slots. The cover itself can actually handle over 500 pounds. So if you were somewhere you needed a good view, you could stand on the back of this thing. The tailgate closed, the cover closed, you can stand on top of that. So.
Wow, it would have been good for the lunar eclipse. You could go out there and lay on the cover and don't worry about. I mean, a couple of people could lay on there.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you can put like I said, you could put a tent over it, or you could put an airbed on it. So.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I think you mentioned something about putting a rack up back there. How would you attach the rack? Because the cover goes side to side, right? I mean, it covers up the Mopar
front
trailer.
to rear, but the rails that are on each side that go over the bed, the top of the bed rails have what are called T-slots in them. So it's a standardized T-slot.
Oh, and this is part of the cover.
Yeah.
Okay,
part of the
gotcha.
cover.
That makes sense.
It's all machined into the rails themselves. So those T-slots are standardized to handle a number of different branded, whether it's crossbars or racks or bike racks, Yakima, Thule, Rhino Rack, Putco, any of these brands that we have a rack of our own. Any of these brands that make products, we partner well with brands like Kuat and Leitner because they make really, really high end and durable overlanding racks. And the challenge that they've had is finding a cover that's strong enough to handle all the gear that people can put on their racks.
Oh yeah, and some people do.
In the EGR roll track, they found one. So.
Yeah. So the T-track, is it the same as? Can you use the Mopar cleats that's used in the trail, the Mopar trail racks?
If they are made, I haven't tested that. If they are made for a standardized T-slot, you could.
Okay, that's interesting.
But I don't know if they're made for a standard T-slot. I think those cleats are made for their trail rail, which has like the circular and the slot. That's a bigger setup.
Well, I mean, you say standardized, so it'd be easy enough to get the cleats to go on there. And then you could actually strap cargo all over the top of you could actually store cargo on top of the thing as long as you don't exceed the 500 pounds.
A little bit. It's really not designed for that because anything you put on top, you could eventually scuff the surface. Really, the retractable cover portion of it itself is designed just for the weather protection. But can you put weight on it? Yes. Is it designed for putting a load directly on it?
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad I asked.
500 pounds? Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. You don't want to mess it up. It's one of the nice things about having a nice Jeep is having it look good, which I know rubs some people the wrong way. It may rub you the wrong way, but I think you can have form and function. I like both those things. So you can do a rack.
CJ, it's all about function over form.
Yeah. So you can put a rack on it. So that means you could put a pop-up tent back there and still have your cover. And the great thing about that is that you have a lockable storage that's going to be very much impeding somebody from getting inside the bed area.
Yep, somebody or something. So there's been plenty of times I've been out camping, and the nice thing is you're up off the ground if you're in an overhead tent. And I've been plenty of times out camping where I'm awakened by things rooting around in the campsite. So you can keep all your stuff secure. Don't have to worry about anything getting in, not just inside your vehicle, but obviously in the bed at that point. And it's easily accessible. So if you come down on your ladder, your tailgate's right there. You can open the cover from your remote, reach in, get what you need, and close it up. So it's a nice setup to really build off of. It also is a great piece. We call it a smart cover. So it does have some monitoring in it and built into it in that CPU. There's resistance measurement. If there's too much snow or ice, for example, too much buildup and too much resistance on top of the cover, it won't open. So it won't eat itself. So you don't have problems with breaking it. We've been testing this in Canada for years now, and ice and snow up there is a regular event. They come out some days and the thing is completely glazed over like a donut and it'll function. Other days, they just got to wait a couple hours till the sun warms it up.
Yeah.
If it's the snows that came through the South here this past January, one of our reps lives down in Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans, and he literally had a foot of snow on top of this cover. And he said, I'll never get this picture again.
Yeah.
But of course, it wouldn't run at that point. We advised him, you probably don't want to dump all that in the bed. But just to try it out, he did to see how it would do with the resistance. So the one thing I think that we get a lot of feedback on, especially in colder areas of the country, is, well, we don't like putting retractables on because in the wintertime, they get frozen up. Going back to the canister, the shape on this is actually crowned. So it forces the water out of the canister and into the drains. So it doesn't ever harbor any water. So you don't have what we call ice damming.
Right.
Some covers, they just have a uniform cavity and water can stage in there. And if it freezes, then your cover can't operate because it's stuck.
Mm-hmm. Where are you guys located in the, where do you guys do your testing and development?
Well, EGR is in Southern California. We're in Ontario, California.
There's no ice in Southern California.
I happen to be in Georgia myself. And we've got our director of marketing. He's up in the Portland area. So we're scattered about, but we have different people testing them in parts of Canada. So we work with Don's Life up in Canada. We work with two of our reps up in Canada who run the equipment up there year round. We have people that run it in different hot climates, salty climates. EGR is an Australian company. So this product was out in Australia before it was here in North America. And they do a lot of heavy dust testing there as well. Water testing.
I was going to ask you, does it keep the dust out? I've been to EJS a couple of times.
It'll keep the dust out of the cover itself. It can't treat the tailgate gaps and those sorts of things.
I was thinking that too.
You end up with what we call dust defense kits. They have more of those in Australia for vehicles we don't have here, but we did just introduce one for the Ford Ranger. We have one coming for a Toyota. We're hoping to work on one for the Jeep, but the Gladiator actually has a reasonable seal around its tailgate where other brands haven't figured that out yet.
Oh man, so much dust. I mean, I'd still go to EJS or go to Moab. It's wonderful, but man, so much dust. So, and I'm glad you mentioned the other vehicles because we like talking about Jeeps here for obvious reasons. But this cover isn't just for Jeeps. Who else do you have it for?
We make this for all full size trucks. So we have 5.5 and 6.5 foot applications for all your basic truck setups. F-150, 250, 350, so Ford, Ram, GM, GMC, the Chevys. Chevys are most popular right now. We also make it for the Toyota Tacoma, the Toyota Tundra, make it for the Ford Ranger. There are international applications made that we don't offer here in North America, but they do make them for vehicles like the Hilux and some other Mitsubishi products and things that are out there. But it started with EGR is really primarily an OE manufacturer. So I work on the aftermarket side, but as an OE manufacturer, where this cover starts, we make the cover for the GM EV Hummer. We also make it for the Rivian. We just started making them for Rivian now to solve their cover problem. Mm-hmm. Those have been shipping for a couple of months, and we've been making the Ineos manual cover for the Quartermaster for a little over a year now. So big time into the OE side, which is where the quality of it comes from. Mm-hmm. We're held to a much higher standard on the quality side. We bring that into the aftermarket where most of our competitors are aftermarket companies that need to upscale in order to satisfy the OE if they want to work in there.
Right. So that's really cool. I'm glad you mentioned the OE stuff because, I mean, like Steer Smarts, for example, is that way. They have an OE thing that they've been doing for over 100 years. So you can see that quality in the Steer Smarts components. I was going to say recently, but a couple of years now, I've been dealing with Tyree Lights, and they have been exclusively in the mining and the commercial side of things, and they're only just now moving into the off-road stuff.
Eric's got them moving into the aftermarket side.
Yeah. Eric was on our roundtable last night. We had an impromptu roundtable. We were talking about some of the things that are coming out on Tyree Lights. Yeah, we have Ken definitely and Eric Cole, definitely friends of the show, and love those guys. And you may not know this, but I am a light freak. I had a conversation with Ken, a chat, and I told him, I was telling him on my XJ, I had 100,000 lumens. And then his next question was, is that measured or theoretical? And I got a big smile on my face and said, theoretical.
Yeah. That's a challenge for sure. That's a lot of light.
Yeah, it really is. It's so funny. And I told him, and it's on a 60 amp alternator. Yeah,
you might want to upgrade that one.
You don't keep them on for very long. No. I mean, you don't drive around.
Firing them is probably your biggest challenge.
Well, I actually put a dimmer on the main light bar that I built because that one pulls a lot of amps, and I could actually tone it down and bring it back up. Anyway, enough about that. One of the things I saw here, and I think you guys had this back in February, but I didn't remember it, is you have a Rolltrack S-Series with a black sports bar. And I think that everybody remembers Back to the Future and that cool Toyota that had the roll bar in it. And I think that was probably a proper roll bar. It went all the way to the bed. This one doesn't, I'm sure. but it gives you that look, and it's a neat look for an off-road truck.
Yeah. Yeah, I think years ago, Jeep learned the hard way. You can't use the term roll bar. And thank you,
roll
lawyers.
track, sports
it's
bar.
Now, the sport bar is what you put in there because
the sports bar has the TVs and they have all
right,
the
exactly. Sports bars are where you go to watch games and have a nice drink. Sport bar you can put in the back of your truck.
Right.
Those kind of came back into fashion a few years ago, which was interesting, and it is a bit of a trend, but they've been very popular. So we make EGR has made sport bars for several OE vehicles for years. In fact, most Ford Rangers around the world that come with us with a sport bar, that's an EV or EGR product. That product line has been popular for about a few years here in North America. It's been very popular around the world for a while. And we started making these sport bars for the roll track. So it has the T-slot mount, and that'll work in a slotted mount setup. They are specifically made for our cover from a width standpoint. We now have those for all the full-size trucks as well as the Jeep, but it's a popular combination. It does add functionality where you can mount lights on top.
That was going to be my next question.
Outside of the Gladiator application, they are a third brake light. So the Gladiator has a third brake light in the tailgate, so we didn't have to do it in the sport bar. But it's a cool look, and it is basically for that. It's not a protective piece. You can't say roll bar anymore. And we have little labels on them that say, this is not a roll bar.
Right. Not a roll bar, but we pretend to be a roll bar on the internet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm going to ask anyway. One of the things that the Jeepers like to do, especially for the ones that go off-road, is have communication. So you can have on-the-trail communication. One of the difficult things about installing radios, specifically antennas, for Jeeps is that you don't have a metal top.
Right.
There's
you don't
not
have a central mounting location on metal.
Yeah. So could you use this let me say it right, sport bar to mount an antenna, a quarter wave antenna, and have it operate properly?
I hadn't thought about that, but I absolutely think at the very least you could put a magnetic mount up there.
Because it's all about the grounding. You have to have that RF bonding, and as long as it is metal to metal and the bed is definitely metal, I think it would work.
Well, because these are adapted for being able to do lights, there's plugged ports in them, so you can run wiring through the sport bar. So if you wanted to run a ground wire down to your frame, you could hide that all the way down through the tubing into the bed and down to the frame if you needed to.
Yeah, it might be an easy way for Gladiator owners to add an antenna, as long as you're not parking it in the garage. Let's just say that.
Well, again, the magnet mount's nice for that.
Yeah, and it's like you remember the antenna was up there whenever you hit it, and
as
it
soon
falls.
as you hear it clunk. Don't ask me how I know, but yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's really cool. I think it's a great idea. It's because one of the things about Jeeps is, and I'm not telling you anything new, is we like to be able to customize our Jeeps so that they look a little different. It has to do with our personality and to some degree, the things that we want to do with it. So having that roll bar on there, sports bar, I'm going to say the wrong thing. Sorry.
That's okay.
I think it's a really cool idea. And the really neat thing is you don't have to have either a cover or a sports bar. You can have both.
Right. In this case, you can do both. And you can even use crossbars still if you have the sport bar on there, because the slot is still available for you. So you wanted bike mounts or anything like that, you can put in there. It's still fully versatile to have that. So it doesn't exclude other products. You would need to choose between a sport bar or a rack system.
Right.
But at that point, I think you're talking about two different things. So,
well, I mean, there's always a Sawzall, right? You could modify that rack. Don't tell me I can't do it, damn it. Okay, so let me talk about this next. One of the things that you guys got, and this is interesting because the company that builds these LED lights, we were actually going to do an interview with them, and they said we better hold off because we're talking to somebody about them buying our product and selling it directly. And then later on, I found out who it was.
Yeah.
So guys, go ahead.
We brought out the VSL lights last year, and you were talking about the guys at DNC, Danny and Chris, and they made a really cool product. But they're great inventors. They just they don't have a good way to go to market with it. So we offered to step in and say, hey, let us take on the marketing and sales of this product. We believe in it. We think it's a great piece. Let's put this out there. So the VSL light on the Jeep product is a replacement cowl assembly that has two side-facing LED lights in them that also act as turn signal blinkers. They come paint ready, or they come in the 24 Skittles colors that Jeep has made. And we offer those.
Which is going to be a horrible thing to have to go through, because you got to make sure you have a color, even the colors that nobody wants. You got to have those colors.
And therein lies the challenge. We start having inventory that doesn't move as fast. So in time, we will probably whittle this down to just the more popular colors. But right now, we do have quite a bit available. So, and the great thing about this is it's a straight bolt-on swap. There's 3 wires that you wire to a ground, a switch, and your turn signal. All that wiring is right there in the fender line. So it's an easy installation. The paint codes match the factory code of the vehicle. So you can either order it with a factory paint code option. If your vehicle's a little older, you can order it in the paint ready. It needs to be either painted, wrapped, or sealed, or sprayed, because it's a urethane material. It's injection molded, just like the factory piece. So it does need to be treated, or the sun's going to degrade it. But really bright side light. It's a unique product. It throws a massive amount of light out about 160, 180 degrees on either side. And it does act as a turn signal as well. So if you've gone with an off-road fender designer, if you're in one of those states that's a little picky about wheel coverage or at least turn signal visibility, you have that back on the side. So,
so
it gives you that necessary DOT visibility in some states.
Yeah. So not that I'm not unsympathetic to the people that do this, but could you blind people that are at the stop sign, or the light, that are begging
if they were in your direct line
money?
of sight on the side, you could potentially pull up and flick a switch. But that's not
no. Go ahead. I'm good.
No differently than sliding in behind them, doing the very same thing, which we've all enjoyed in the past as well.
So are these? I would assume they're flood and therefore not adjustable. You can't angle them up or down. They're fixed. Correct. Okay.
They're fixed, and the injection molded portion of that housing has them angled at just a nice even level. So it doesn't fire down, it doesn't fire up, but it does throw a broad enough pattern that it illuminates everything around. They're great on the trails. If you're out in the rural areas where there's just no street lights and you need some additional side lighting, you don't want to throw a high beam out there, you can easily put those on.
I don't know. And are these just for Jeeps?
We make them for Jeep Wrangler and Jeep Gladiator. From all the JLs, JTs, we do make the paint-ready version for the JK, and we offer one for the Ford Bronco. It's a little bit different design on the Bronco. It works on the front blade of the Bronco, replaces that limb riser hookup. It retains the hole for that, but we put the light there, rises up a little bit above the hood. So it's a nice functional piece there as well. But those are made out of billet.
So the reason why I ask is, absolutely off-road. Have you ever been off-road and you got all these lights for the front, and then you go, well, I need to see where the edge of this cliff is. It's kind of nice having some lights on the side, and you can do other lights, but then you have to have more stuff hanging off. Whereas this one's, these are integrated into the Jeep, which makes it really nice. Oh, and color match, so it looks factory. And in
a lot of cases, people don't realize them at first until it's flicked on. They go, wait a minute, where's that light coming from? Because it's a factory looking cowl. It just has a light sitting in it. So it's a nice piece. And you can still use other products that bolt onto that cowl area, so long as they don't go across where that light portion of the piece is. So there's some of the light mounts that go up the A-pillar or up the windshield frame that can still be mounted in that area. Not all, but some will utilize that. Some that cross over there. So you can still put A-pillar pods and those sorts of things on there. Doesn't preclude you from using other lights in most cases.
So I'm thinking about border security, because I'm thinking this would be a good option. And I didn't know if maybe somebody has reached out to you guys about, especially for the Fords, getting the side lighting, because, you're driving along and you're checking for individuals crossing illegally. And this would be a great way for them to be able to see what's going on. I'm sure they have additional lighting for that already, but it would be nice to have something like this.
It's a nice integrated section. Yeah, if they were running some Gladiators out there, that'd be pretty cool, or even Wranglers. I think, unfortunately, they're not.
So obviously, this product is not for the 4xe because that cowl piece is used. And
and we've toyed with the idea of relocating that charging port to be able to put a piece like this in. It also doesn't work on the Mojave or the 392 because those have a taller cowl. So this one's for the standard size cowl. But there is a possibility in the future of expanding that. I think the 4xe it's going to be a lot to relocate that piece.
Mhm.
Could you put it on the passenger side? Sure. But then you're buying a set. We don't sell them as a split piece.
Right.
But it's not intended for the 4xe at this point.
So I think it was last year's EJS, right before last year's EJS, somebody reached out to the Jeep Talk Show on Instagram direct messaging saying, hey, can we send you a set of these VSL lights? And I thought, I was like, oh, yeah, I'd love to have that. That'd be fun. But unfortunately, I've got a snorkel. And I actually have the Rugged Ridge snorkel that uses that cowl piece. So again, you're back to the one side type thing. So so I don't know that there is a solution for that, but I love lights, and having additional lighting is great, and having side lights.
Well, if you know somebody with a 4xe, you guys can buy a set and split.
There you go. I like that because it's one on either side. Perfect.
There you go.
All right, so let's talk about the. I think the last thing here, unless you have something more, the in-channel window visors. And I know everybody knows what this is, but it's I think largely they are used to keep the rain from coming in whenever your windows roll down or cracked.
Yeah, it gives you a little bit of protection. It allows you to keep your windows cracked without the weather coming in. So if it's really hot outside or really humid, you want to just get some air ventilation in the vehicle. Jeeps are always known for having awesome air ventilation anyway. So this gives you that breathability without the roar or the rattle that goes on with the soft tops, especially. This gives some ventilation, but it protects you from the elements outside. So if there's even if you're in a parking lot, you got this thing parked and you want to have a little bit of ventilation so the vehicle isn't 1,000 degrees when you come out, you can keep it cracked. You don't have to worry about the rain getting in. Likewise, if you're camping, you happen to be crashed out inside, you want to be able to take a nap, you don't get cooked in there. So it's cool. Happen to be smoker, gives you some ventilation. You don't have to run with the window down all the time, especially in the rain. So they're a nice piece. It does also add a little bit of shade. We offer them in a smoke and a matte finish. So it does offer a little bit more sun protection from along the A-pillar area, which is a benefit if you're looking for that, especially if you end up driving east or west at certain times of the day.
Yeah, and obviously this is for hard tops only, not soft tops.
It works on the hard doors. So it can work with the soft tops because it goes in the door itself. The door is universal to the hard top soft top.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Good. Yeah. All right. So is there anything on the horizon that you guys may be coming out with that you can share with us?
Boy, we've been expanding so much in the roll cover side of things, especially on the full-size truck. I would love to tell you that I've got a flare coming out for Jeep, but I don't have it right around the corner. We are working as an OE manufacturer. We have been working with Stellantis on some products. So they do have a product coming out that may or may not be made by a company that currently is on a podcast. But I won't be selling that one. That's on the OE side.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not on the Gladiator page, but it's on the Wrangler page, I believe. You have a hood visor or a hood deflector, don't you?
We do make a hood guard that can go on the front of the hood, so that helps protect from rock chips and other things. So it does protect there. That's available for both of those platforms because they share the same hood. So
now, is it like a flare where it directs the air and the love bugs and the small particles up and over the vehicle?
I mean, you're still driving a vehicle that has the aerodynamics of a cinder block, so it's not going to completely prevent all that from hitting the front of it.
The way God intended it to be.
Exactly. But it does protect that front lip, and it does channel some of the air up over. I mean, Jeeps are wonderful at creating a low pressure system right in front of the windshield. So it does help deflect some of that air up over the windshield. If you're running without a roof, you feel it. Get the rain on the back of your head before you get it on the top of your head. That's the exact example there. So it does lift off just a little bit above the hood and give you some of that extra protection and some wind foil.
So I don't know if you guys go to EJS. Are you going to EJS this year as a company?
Man, I wish I could. I haven't been in EJS since, actually, I think it was a COVID year. It's been about 3 or 4 years since I've been out there, and I was out with a different company at the time. EGR isn't currently doing any direct events. I would like to be going to Easter Jeep and EJS and the events out in Smoky Mountain. I just don't have the right mix yet to go out to that, but soon.
Would they need to build, if they don't already have one, an EGR Gladiator, put it on at least 38s, put a Bob bed on it, put all the...
Interestingly, we just got rid of our Gladiator.
Oh, that's a shame.
It aged out. I'm currently driving a full-size truck, but we're looking at getting back into the Jeep side of things. We're waiting to see what they're doing with the Recon. We're waiting to see what they're going to do with with the Gladiator in the next couple of years, and we'll jump back in that.
So I just thought of something. And this is going to be a very niche market, but the bobbed bed, they're very popular, or they're getting more popular for the Gladiator. Your cover would not work on a bobbed bed, would it?
No, but if they were to come out with a shortened bed version, I mean, I'll just take the Ineos Quartermaster as an example. It's a short bed. It's basically they've bobbed behind the cab, so they made a less than 5 foot bed. Making shorter rails is not the challenge. So the canisters are injection molded. That's where all your expense and tooling and engineering is. But the rail length is just that. It's just length. So could we adapt a cover to that in the future if there was enough vehicles to justify it?
Yeah, sure. Probably not. But I mean, the bob bed is really cool, but none of them come painted, and they're at least $5,000 whenever you get one for Motobuilt. It's a really cool idea though, and it definitely takes care of that departure angle for the Gladiator.
Yeah, it's funny. That goes back to the Scrambler days. So when I first got my CJ in the early 90s, Scramblers were still running all over the place, and they were actually affordable back then. And of course, in Jeep's infinite wisdom, they ended the production of those way sooner than they should have.
Right.
Just like the XJ. But I digress. But a lot of people were bobbing those. And then nowadays you want to see them, they want to be restored. So.
Yeah. I wish they'd come back with an XJ. I remember we were doing this show because we're in our 15th year right now. And we were talking about the new Cherokee coming out. And boy, was that a sucker punch. Because that was nothing. I mean, I was very hopeful for a modernized XJ, and I knew it wasn't going to have the 4.0 in it, but even that, it would be nice to have the XJ honored, and it was not honored.
What? No, not at all. In fact, they thought they were going to honor that with things like the Renegade, and I think we just realized that Fiat doesn't understand Jeep.
No.
So, but yeah, the XJ. It's one of those vehicles that you still see them running around here. And unfortunately, the only shortcoming on those is the unibody. If they had made that on a ladder frame, that would have been the perfect off-roading vehicle. It's coil in the front, leaf in the back, had a 4-liter motor that was just absolutely bulletproof. Go. Just go. You can go anywhere you want with it.
And if you had the AW4, that's almost as bulletproof as the 4.0.
Yeah. Great. The only shortcoming on that is the entire body just creaks, cracks, and pops off.
So I bought a brand new one. I'm a single owner XJ person. The XJ is actually in the garage right now. It's got an Atlas transfer case, long arms on the front. It's on 33s for 56 gears, and I don't drive it anymore because I've got a Gladiator. Yeah.
Well, there you go. A little bit more convenience on the Gladiator, but the XJ is a heck of a runner.
Oh, it's so nice. It's so much fun, and I've been modifying it for years. I mean, since I got it, and they're really nice. And I took care of that unibody thing with sliders that also had frame stiffeners. And I tell you what, I don't want to devolve too much into XJ talk here. I tell you what, I had no idea that the XJ was twisting as much as it twisted until I got those frame stiffeners on there.
Yeah, where you realize that you start hearing that popping and cracking and find the cracks around your tailgate hinges and your front doors start to pop off.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like driving a Renegade, but with flex. Because the body is just really stiff now. It's really nice.
With functionality.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, since I don't think they have circuses anymore, so they don't need clown cars. So that was the marketing problem.
They were surprisingly roomy inside, but yeah, it's not what it was supposed to be. That and the Liberty were very disappointing replacements.
So the Liberty I hated because that was like the direct replacement of the XJ. And it just did not live up to the Jeep name. None of those do. I call them Gynos, Jeep and name only.
Yeah, and they I remember that.
Yeah. Well, I'm stealing it from the Rhinos.
They changed them every couple of years too. So the aftermarket never really got into supporting those. I used to work in the Jeep aftermarket side. I was the national running Jeep and off-road division at Onyx and Rugged Ridge. And we would get calls from people that had Liberties and Compasses and Renegades going, how come you guys aren't doing more for it? Because they change the thing. Like every 2 years, I can't put product out there that's never going to sell.
Right. Well, and I never want anybody to I never want to make people feel bad about getting a Renegade or the new Cherokee or anything like that. What I do want to do is make sure they understand that they bought a Jeep, but you're not buying the same aftermarket support. But for these, like you get for the Wrangler and even the Gladiator. So, I mean, the Gladiator.
Same thing with the Grand Cherokees, some of the, the full-size rigs, they didn't get, there was a lot more modification. Of course, back in the day when the CJ was around, when I started in all this, there wasn't a lot of aftermarket for us, so we fabricated everything. Mm-hmm. That's why these things look like tanks, way about as much.
Sure. Well, that's really, really cool. All right. So, Pat, you know what? Damn it. I forgot. I know people were screaming at me, but I still forgot about it. EGRUSA.com. Echo Golf Romeo USA, like where we live.com. Well, not everybody that listens to the show lives in the United States, but you should, damn it. Everybody should live in Texas too. EGRUSA.com. So go over there and check it out. I've always been really impressed. This cover that you can put on your Gladiator is very impressive. It's very nice. And I personally think that whether it's a full-size truck or a Gladiator or any of the mid-size trucks, it makes the vehicle look finished. Whenever the bed is open like that, it doesn't look like it was finished being built. So finish building your vehicle by putting one of these tops on there.
That's it. That's absolutely right.
All right, Pat. So
and don't forget, a lot of these guys that you got have Jeeps that they're pulling around behind the truck, so we can fit them both.
That's right, tow rigs. So and everybody needs to have their stuff safer and stuff that doesn't walk off. And keep in mind that even if it isn't super, it's not like iron or anything that's keeping it protected. If you keep it out of the thieves' eyes, they have to spend a little time, and are they going to waste their time trying to get into something to steal whatever you got in there? Because it could be a nothing burger that you got in there. All right, Pat, you know how the kids love the social media. Where can we find you, EGR, any of the above on the social media?
EGR is on all the platforms. So our marketing guys got it covered on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. We've got all kinds of content out there. So just go out there and take a look. You can reach any of those links through our website, EGRUSA.com, and see some of the content that we got out there.
That would be the fastest way to find it, right? EGRUSA.com, and you just scroll to the bottom.
You just go out there and you can look for at EGR. EGR, unfortunately, also gets confused with exhaust gas recirculation valves.
Yes.
So sometimes those search bring up different things.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not as bad as looking for tranny fluid, though. So
there's that.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for being with us. Great interview. We'll have to have you back, and especially if you get something new to talk to us about. And who knows? Maybe you guys will come up with a cover, but it's a pop-up tent, so you can just, like that Batman thing where it goes.
Exactly.
That'd be nice.
So that morphs into something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine that. I've seen a patent on that recently from Jeep.
Well, that's right. They are going to be doing a.
They're trying to do the tent top.
The tent top. I'm glad to see they're doing things, and I feel anyway that the reason why we got a 392 is because of the Bronco. So I'm not sure. I mean, the overlanding thing probably has something to do with them, and the sales are down, so they need to be innovative, and I like that. I think that's good. So
it'll be funny to see all the Volkswagen microbus guys going, "Hey, that was a great idea."
Exactly. All right, man. Have a great day. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to being back.
Broadcasting since 2010.
You're my friend. You're my new friend.